Hi guys, I bet you've been thinking to yourself, I wonder what that moderately competent YouTube guitar player sounded like when he was 17. Well, it's your lucky day. I've got a track from my high school band, For Instance. Yes, it's the worst name ever. I didn't come up with it. I don't know why I agreed to that, but I think it was pretty much like, okay guys, if you let me take a guitar solo on every song, you can do whatever you want. Sure, let's go with the horrible reject boy band name. That's a really good idea. But, anyway, even though it's really remedial stuff, there's some pretty cool production actually, which is sometimes cool when you go back and look at some of this stuff. So with no further ado, let's go back in time. Diddle-doo, 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 diddle-doo.
Get ready. Now for music.
You don't know what you are doing. You won't take my time up anymore. It's true, except I know you're lying. I'll pretend I know what this is for. I can't tell you this, but I know I'm right. I've looked into this too many times. Everywhere it rolls around, but I'm gonna leave it up. Still handsome, say you'll always stay around. Still alive, still alive, myself. I know, but I won't tell you so. Maybe I'm just waiting to start. So far, I'm happy when you're happy, maybe. You know we're like heaven. I can't tell you this till tomorrow night. I've seen you all this, now it's mine. Everywhere it rolls around, but I'm gonna leave it up. Still handsome, say you'll always stay around. Still alive, still alive, myself.
Would you do that with the numbers on your screen? And if you'll do that, then we'll be so grateful.
Well, that was kind of cool. So let's talk about some of the production that went into it. So first off, let's take a look at the beginning of it. Okay, so that was literally my dad's radio receiver hooked right up to the computer, and we were just doing the dials to come up with a cool, Pink Floyd-esque kind of Radiohead, maybe kind of like noise intro there that the guys were into. And that came out pretty cool. If you listen carefully, you can hear like a little bit of a Matchbox 20 song in there for a second. But anyway, that was kind of cool. There's also like a preacher voice in there. And I'll tell you how we did that in a minute. It's a pretty funny story. Let's check out the next part.
I can't tell you this till tomorrow night. I've seen you all this, now it's mine. February rolls around, but underneath it all, still the handsome. Still you always stay around. Still alive.
Okay, so this is one of these stories about necessity. So back at the time, I was using a Fender Princeton 112, which is a solid-state 65-watt amp, and the gain channel on that was actually a lot like the Fender ProSonic. It was designed by the same team that did the ProSonic, which was designed by Bruce Zinke. So it's actually very similar to like a Mesa Boogie kind of sound, or a Soldano or something. And so I was using that, and I had to mic that with an AKG C1000S, which is really the wrong mic for that. It's a small diaphragm condenser. And I remember like taking hours trying to find a positioning of that mic that would somewhat get close to making a decent sound and represent my tone. But at the time I was big into Boston, and I was actually quadruple tracking, the guitar riffs. Now, it was it's crazy when I look back on this now, but the way I did that is I would record a click track into the computer, and I didn't have an audio recording software, so I had to assemble this after the fact in a video editing software, which is nuts because everything's got to be absolutely perfect. There's no fixing of anything because you could only move it a frame at the time when you do that. Now, I don't fix things now anyway, but that necessity helped develop my excellent timing that I use as a session guitar player. So yeah, I would have to record each part, monitor that, and then dump it into the video editing software to assemble that. So I was doing that. The effects were actually an Alesis Quadriverb. They're not great. Somehow at the time, I thought it was the greatest thing ever, but that was patched into the effects loop of my amp, and so you're hearing kind of like a gated tremolo kind of thing there, and different layering. So I did different layers of feedback and blended that all there. And looking back on it, that's some pretty ingenious production of getting the right feedback notes to make everything work there. So let's check out the next part.
Would you do that? The number's on your screen, and if you'll do that, then we'll be so grateful.
Okay, so that was actually a pretty cool section. You're hearing different, like heavily EQ'd kind of funk guitar parts and different stuff going on there, and some kind of tremolo guitar parts. The vocal thing was me and my buddy Chris Zabriskie, who was actually the lead singer of the band, but on this track I sang because basically I was doing the production and I got tired with it taking forever, so I think I ended up singing for that reason. But that's Chris and I singing around one mic, and we ran that into an Alesis Quadriverb to do the flanging effect, so sort of like a Beatles type thing, and then we layered that up. The voice in the background is actually it's a TV preacher, and so we were goofing around one day, and we turned on the channel and we thought it was funny. So he was like trying to get money out of people. So he's like, could you do that? If you could just give me some money, the number's on the screen, and now some music. And so we thought, well, that's genius. So here's a cool trick to get the radio, sort of the AM radio sound that's better than any kind of EQ. But what you have to do is mic a lo-fi source. So what we did at the time is we actually held like a cell phone up at the TV and called the home phone at my house, and we had a speakerphone, and we mic'd the speakerphone with an SM57. You can still get that effect if you had like a laptop or something, and you, because I've done this on a recent song, which maybe I'll show you, it's really cool. You know, I just took a mic and mic'd the speaker on the laptop with like a news feed to get kind of a cool voices sound like that. Anyway, that preacher guy, I've got him on a hard drive somewhere, but I pull him out from time to time and try to insert some of the preacher guy into a song if I can. It's just like, it's a running gag. Now, the other part is the bass production on that. I'm pretty sure we were just taking the preamp out of the bass player, my buddy Joey Zuyus. We probably did that and ran it right into the computer. Okay, so guitar solo time. Okay, so at that time I was still playing my modded Mexi Strat. I had modded that with a Steve Vai Evolution pickup in the bridge, and I was probably using a bad horsey wah-wah. So I was still trying to figure things out tone-wise, but you can hear in there I'm doing like an open string pull-off thing. And so this tells me that I had just heard the Merry Axmas disc that had Joe Satriani and Steve Vai and a bunch of guys on it. And that's actually the first Satch I ever heard. And that's one of Satch's, you know, moves that he does all the time forever, is the open string pull-off thing. So I had just, you know, I thought I was like a genius. I just figured that out, so I was working that into everything. So anyway, that's cool there. A word about the recording on the drums. That was done in my parents' living room, and they have a like kind of a vaulted ceiling and a wood floor, and I think we were probably just using 2 AKG C1000S's in stereo, maybe a snare drum mic, but it's shocking like a halfway, you know, decent sound. We ran that into like a cheap PV mixer, and then on the aux end I had like a reverb setting on with the Alesis quadriverb, and we used that and recorded it in the computer. The other thing about recording at the time is, you know, man, it was so tedious because it wasn't a dedicated audio computer, and it's hard for people to remember now, but hard drives, if they're not fast enough to keep up, you'll get a click or like a pop in the track. So I had to throw out so many takes because the hard drive couldn't keep up. So it was just a mess just to get clean takes, and it's amazing looking back on that any of that stuff worked. But it just shows you, you know, perseverance pays off, and you know, the whole reason I got into doing my own recordings is because I got annoyed with having to wait to go over to my buddy Chris Zabriskie's house to record the band projects, and I wanted the freedom to be able to take my time to get the tone right, and I never could get the tone right when it wasn't in a controlled space where I didn't have time to really figure out the tone. So that was the whole development of me starting to learn how to do my own you know, record production. Anyway, thanks for checking everything out. I hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to like and subscribe and click the notification bell to keep up with what I'm doing. Thanks a lot.